Christian Mbilli versus Sergey Derevyanchenko. Let's talk about the fight. It ended how I predicted it would, with a Christian Mbilli victory, but the knockout did not come. Round one, the two combatants come out of their corners facing off to each other. Sergey Derevyanchenko is assessing the situation. He didn't come here to lose. One thing I didn't say is Sergey Derevyanchenko is trained by someone that I rate to an extent, Andre Rozier. I rate Andre Rozier. He trained Danny Jacobs to his titles. And Derevyanchenko was a sparring partner for Danny Jacobs for most of his top fights that he had, the Golovkin fight and so forth. So Sergey Derevyanchenko is no slouch. He knows his way around the ring. He knows what he's doing in there, and he didn't come here to lose. Assessing the situation, seeing what Mbilli has, and Mbilli comes out all guns blazing, throwing haymakers from the beginning. I saw it from the beginning. He was trying way too hard to get this knockout, and I'm like, is he going to get this knockout by trying so hard? I doubt it. First round I give to Mbilli, and then the second round I actually gave that to Sergey Derevyanchenko. Came out doing well, felt the power from Christian Mbilli and wasn't deterred. By the end of the first round, he was kind of comfortable, and even though he was moving around the ring, he did have a good output, throwing punches, jabs, left and right, and catching Mbilli in between his guard, as he wasn't necessarily moving his head much. He just had the high guard and was just moving forward, trying to throw haymakers and bombs, trying to get Sergey Derevyanchenko out of there. Third round was a very well contested round. I did edge it to Christian Mbilli, but Sergey did do very well in that round. He made a very good account of himself. Good output and good movement and shot selection. Jabs to the jaw, jabs to the face, up little uppercuts, working the body a bit. So he did do well in that round. But Christian Mbilli won the round. In the middle of the fourth round, Sergey Derevyanchenko seemed to have damaged his left arm somewhere in the bicep area. He stopped throwing his jab, and he also had his arm low where he was not really even guarding himself. So Mbilli was catching him flush with the overhand right most of the time for the duration of that fourth round and also into the fifth. It seemed like he had done some sort of muscular damage to his arm, Derevyanchenko, and he couldn't throw it and he couldn't even block with it. He was still in the fight. I give him a lot of credit for fighting through the pain and just continuing, even though he only had his right hand, which he was just constantly throwing and still catching Mbilli with it. But he was now losing rounds because he could not use that left hand at all. So that was like fourth, fifth and sixth was that type of situation. But he was still doing well in the rounds, even though he was losing the rounds. Seventh was the same. I think it was either the seventh or eighth round. And Billy's throwing these big haymakers that he's trying to throw. And Derevyanchenko's throwing at the same time. But they collide and Derevyanchenko actually punches Mbilli in his knee. The ref didn't see it and it wasn't on purpose. But he punched him in his knee and Mbilli stumbled. But that allowed Derevyanchenko to launch an attack with his right hand. Right hand after right hand after right hand after right hand. And he done quite well for that little period of time. He seemed to have caught Mbilli and stunned him somewhat. But Mbilli regained his composure and went on to win that round as well. At this point, Sergey is coming out as a southpaw now with his right hand as his jab hand, trying to do something because that left arm was not doing anything. So he's trying to use his jab hand as his right hand, but Mbilli started to just catch him straight down the middle with the right hand. And so he quickly came back out of that southpaw stance, back to his orthodox stance, but had little output with the left, even though he was pouring it out there. Derevyanchenko was pouring out the left and coming over with the right hand and catching Mbilli. He's still catching Mbilli. Mbilli is just trying too hard to get this knockout. For all the rounds, he was just trying too hard to get this knockout. He won most of the rounds, if not all of the rest of the rounds. The 12th round was a very entertaining round. It was a very entertaining fight in all, because Sergey Derevyanchenko isn't just here to make up the numbers. He wants to get the win. And if he didn't get that damage to his arm in the fourth round, who knows what could have been the outcome? Because at that point, you could have had it 2-2 in rounds. You could have actually had it 2-2 in rounds. Because I gave Derevyanchenko 2 definite rounds, and those were early. Subsequently, he went on to lose all the rest of the rounds and lost wide on the scorecards. So, how do I see Christian Mbilli after this performance? There's a lot more to work on for Christian Mbilli. This fight showed his lack of experience in the pro ranks, lack of experience at the upper levels of the super middleweight division. He's obviously calling out for the title fight because he is in line for that. At the same time, we know Canelo is not fighting him next. He's fighting Edgar Berlanga in a couple of weeks. But for me, I don't even think Mbilli should actually go for that fight right now. Even though he is in line for that fight. Obviously, it's the most money in boxing. He could say, all right, let me just go for that fight now and just throw all his eggs into one basket and just go for the money fight, get beat up. And because I believe that Canelo would probably beat Mbilli after this, based on this performance. Based on this performance, I would give Canelo the edge over Mbilli. We got to remember, Canelo is a little man, you know. He's not supposed to be fighting at super middleweight. He's a super middleweight undisputed champion, but he's not supposed to be there. He's a weight class at least above where he's supposed to be. He's coming from junior welterweight, and now he's at middleweight, super middleweight. He's the smallest super middleweight out of all the super middleweights. So that's where he lacks, but he has the edge in boxing IQ and his ability to generate a lot of power from sneaky angles and where you won't even see it. Where Mbilli loading up with these big overhand right haymakers. At the end of the day, if you're a decent boxer, you're seeing that coming and you're going to do what you need to do to survive those punches, to either ride the punch or block the punch or move away from the punch, which Derevyanchenko did a lot of in this fight. He just didn't have the levels to actually win the fight. Plus, that injury really messed him up. We will see what's next for Mbilli going forward. I believe he should fight someone like John Ryder, or Jaime Munguia. If he can get any of these fights, John Ryder, Jaime Munguia type of opponent, he should do that next to then build himself. And if he then gets past one of these guys, then you go for Canelo Alvarez. That's my opinion. So we'll see what happens next. Well done to both combatants. Sergey Derevyanchenko, you've done a lot better than I thought. I did not take into account that you are actually a well-schooled boxer. You are a big challenge. You've never been knocked out. I did say that he had never been knocked out before. And you weren't about to get knocked out now. Not by this guy, eh? You know what I mean? Golovkin couldn't knock you out. How you letting Mbilli knock you out? That's what you're saying, yeah? Okay, cool. Say no more. We'll see what happens next for both combatants. Sergey Derevyanchenko is a gatekeeper. Mbilli has won the fight, marching on trying to get that Canelo fight. We will see what happens in the future.